Hello everybody, and welcome back to Tome Raider. I'm Ollie Johnson, and I'm joined by Dan Murgy. How you doing, Dan?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, and this week we read Sherlock Holmes, The Sign of the Four, or The Sign of Four, depending,
Depending on the edition you pick up,
yeah.
or or indeed on the picture on the audiobook you're listening to on YouTube has got up at the time. Seriously, the one I was using had both names on it.
Yeah. Okay, I think that fire sound effect might be a tad loud.
Is it approaching Hellfire's levels of loud?
Not quite.
Hellfire, dire. This is not the stream for that.
uh, well,
Unless it fits in with Sherlock Holmes.
sorry?
Unless it fits in with Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to listen for the stream and listen to you while I'm... Okay, I think we're at a good level with the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I think... Alright, if you could check the audio and confirm... I think we're at a good level with the fire sound effect. This is just first time setup stuff. In fact, I'm going to switch to my Ollie Johnson Plays account so it counts the view. Haha.
I can hear you. I can just about hear the fire.
Yeah, the fire is meant to be very in the background because...
Yeah, because otherwise it causes problems.
Yeah. Okay, so The Sign of the Four. First general impressions. Dan, what did you make of it?
I enjoyed it. It certainly had more elements that were of its time than modern than A Study in Scarlet, I think. I will confess, going into it, I did wonder if, are we dealing with Salt Lake City and the Holy for it?
No, this is a completely unrelated...
Yeah, I was worried. Did Sherlock Holmes secretly wage a one-man war against Mormonism until he recruited Watson into it?
Possibly. Oh, just before we begin proper, content warning, there is some... I mean, I doubt we'll repeat them, but there are, in this book, some very outdated descriptions of, well, stereotypes.
Yeah.
That are played straight. Reminder that this book was written in the 19th century.
Yeah, 1890 was when it was released, so given the previous one was written in a handful of weeks, it quite possibly also written in 1890. Yeah, but I enjoyed the basic story of it, but as I say, more elements that were of its time. But the ideas are solid. One, there are a couple of bits that we go, hang on, that aren't to do with, oh, this is an outdated idea. It was just like, hang on, you could this is a wasted opportunity here.
Yeah, and also there's basically, well, I described it before we went live as there is the Cliff Notes of a romance subplot in here.
Yeah, that is one of the. There is a wasted opportunity here.
Yeah.
But given Arthur Conan Doyle didn't actually didn't like Sherlock Holmes, and he felt it distracted from his other writings, I doubt a long-winded romance subplot was on the cards for the novels.
Yeah. Although, this is where Mary Morstan is introduced. The future Mrs. John Watson.
Yeah, and they have a faster love affair than Romeo and Juliet, but thankfully less people die.
Hang on. I mean, not as a direct result of the love affair, but I think the death toll might be about equal.
There's 3 deaths, 4 deaths in the entire book, ignoring the background of multiple wars.
Yeah.
Because Romeo and Juliet's a love affair over 3 days in which 6 people died.
6? Is it 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So it's not by much, but less people do die.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't mean to like pick you up on that. The point stands.
Oh dear. But yes, what did you think of it? Initial impressions and all?
I didn't like it as much as the last one. I've got to say. Like, it felt longer, even though it wasn't.
Yeah, it was about 20 minutes shorter on the audio book.
Yeah, and I forced my way through it with the book in front of me and Stephen Fry reading it on Audible at about 3.3 times speed.
Yes, Ollie is going at warp 3. I am still trundling along at warp 1 with these.
And you'd be surprised how much... You'd be surprised how quickly you can get through books if getting through them quickly is what you want to do. I hope that my retention hadn't suffered, but then I did have to start again from about the point where they got to the house, because I was trying to just read it with the book, and then decided that my attention span just wasn't having it, so I was gonna have to force it. So I did have to start again, and I did pick up more with this method than I had initially. So, maybe it does work.
Yes, with practice.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through it. We begin at 221B Baker Street, and Sherlock Holmes is lying on his couch, injecting himself with cocaine. That's not a joke. Yeah. That's actually what he's doing.
Yes, after having said last week, well, I don't know whether the drug description comes from the expression he seems to have when it is moments of torpor or not, but it didn't start in that one. And then when I was listening to it, I messaged Jolly immediately going, "There's the drugs!"
And I'd forgotten we were doing Sherlock Holmes at the time, so getting that message out of the blue was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just sort of like, could have been a D&D message, given that, but anyway, I'll not go into that right now.
Yeah.
And
of course, Watson is not fond of this habit.
Yeah, but the amount of disapproval he amounts to is basically just inquiring as to which one it is, and then saying, "But what about your wonderful mind?" And Sherlock going, "Oh, sod that, it's too loud at the moment. And I don't have a case to distract me, so drugs it is."
Well, I mean, I have read that the effects of cocaine can be with you for like years afterwards if it takes a bad turn.
Yes. But yeah, Sherlock is there with his bottle of 7% cocaine solution that just sits on the mantelpiece.
I think we'd probably better just accept that this stream is getting buried in the algorithm, because there's no way we can get away with mentioning cocaine, but we also can't really avoid mentioning it if we're going to do what we're going to be doing here.
Yeah, we're talking about Sherlock Holmes and his various adaptations. And in which they like to focus on him being an addict rather than just a casual user in a time that is colloquial known in history as the Great Binge.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was a friggin' druggy back then.
Yeah, so because the scientists said, no, it's perfectly good for you. For goodness sake, we sent Harrods sold hampers that was sent into the trenches that contained cocaine, heroin, and fresh needles for the soldiers. Which, frankly, if anyone in this period needed it, it was the poor sods in the trenches during the First World War.
Yeah, well, if anyone deserves it as well. Like, if anyone deserves a break.
Yeah. It was like, he said, I think royalty near enough sent hampers with drugs in for the troops as well. It's just,
That's just a really funny. That's just a really funny concept to me.
yeah. And I can't remember exactly whether it did actually have drugs or not, but during the first Christmas, they did send like a royal gift to everyone, which I know contained chocolate, but I don't think it was just chocolate.
Yeah.
But it was just sort of like everyone was off their tits, to put it plainly.
Yeah.
And Sherlock joined in this habit to alleviate boredom for when he didn't have an interesting case.
Yeah.
And into this, like a herald of excitement,
and
what comes.
like, you know what? Fair.
Mm,
So Watson decides to try and give him a distraction, and throws him a watch he has recently come into possession of, belonging to his late brother. Sherlock, obviously, and if you're familiar with the Sherlock BBC series, this is the bit that he does with the phone. But
yes.
in this version, it's a pocket watch, and well, obviously, it's been recently cleaned before it was sent to him, and he even expresses his frustration. He said, "There's hardly any data, but incidentally, I have just divined your late brother's entire like personal habits, alcohol use, and eventual death."
Yeah. Yes. And also divined a bit about your father.
Yeah.
And
And
the fact that your late brother, who I didn't know existed until you handed the watch over to me, is your older brother as well.
yeah, and
Now,
like Watson gets like a little hacked off about this because, well, he doesn't see how he could possibly know any of that, so he like assumes that Sherlock had him researched to like pull this parlor trick that is in very poor taste, and he says as much. He says,
yeah,
"This is unworthy of you, Holmes," and
yeah, for sure, you have made inquiries about me to pull this through. And then Sherlock goes through it all, and Watson just becomes more and more dejected with every sentence.
yeah. But
Hearing.
I do want to point out though that when Watson gets angry, Sherlock immediately apologizes, and he's just like, "I forgot this was so personal to you. I just saw an interesting bit of data and just kept going, and he got a bit excited and rambled, which I'm sure us of the neuro spicy persuasion can relate to."
Yes, us who are literally here talking about a book online.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like,
835.
which is not to make excuses for people who are insensitive, but like, we've all been there when we just start talking about something that we're excited about and just kept going.
Yeah, yeah, and so Watson is feeling dejected. Holmes has had his moment of excitement,
Yeah.
and
Which has prevented him from needing a second dose of cocaine.
yes,
He says this in the text. This isn't conjecture on my part.
yeah. Holmes is just like, oh yes, I looked at the watch. I just deduced that your brother was an alcoholic who has recently died, and he was left good money, and then lost it and had constantly yo-yoing yo-yoing finances between well-off and near destitute across his life. So essentially drunk himself into an early grave. And it's just sort of like, yeah, that is ostensibly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also through that we also learn that Watson is the younger brother, though we don't know of any other additional siblings he may or may not have. Just that he had an older brother. And yeah, Sherlock said, I shall not need a second dose right now. And
They come
there is
out.
there's a knock at the door.
Yeah, and Miss Mary Morstan arrives at the flat.
Yeah.
Now,
Greeting, Seb, joining, as I say, drunk himself to an early grave.
yeah. Oh, you missed all the cocaine talk. Sorry, I forgot to put the message out to. We've been talking about cocaine and rambling on about things that excite us,
Yes.
which are unrelated subjects. We are not excited by cocaine.
The views of the book we are discussing do not reflect the views of the host.
Oh God, no! There is some very outdated concepts in this book.
Yes.
Uh, so, so I always hate missing the cocaine talk.
Yeah.
There,
Don't we all?
there is no way this is getting picked up by the algorithm. We've said cocaine too many times.
Let's be honest, we said cocaine by about 15 times by 2 minutes in.
Yeah. Okay, enough about cocaine.
Until it's relevant to the story again.
The door opens and in comes Miss Mary Morstan.
A
Outdated concept in a book written in the Victorian era? I know!
I know, who'd have thought it?
And Mary is a new client who, I believe, says her father, Captain Morstan, has gone missing, is presumed dead, but not confirmed dead. And she's been receiving pearls in the mail.
1 pearl a day, 1 pearl a year, every year for the past 10 years, which was also only a few days after the news was announced that her father's dear friend, Colonel Soto, has passed away, and she started receiving these and yeah, so her father has been missing for at least 10 years, if not slightly longer. I can't remember offhand.
I mean, at that point, you got to assume they're either dead or they don't want to come back.
Yeah. And the pearls, because she has about half a dozen of them still, are described as a finer collection of pearls as I had ever seen, says Watson.
And apparently they've been helping her. Selling the pearls periodically has been helping her cover expenses.
Yes, because she is now working as a governess, now that she is of age, having been put into a boarding school until she was 17.
Seb says, I love Colonel. Well, he's no Colonel Cop. That's a thing we've made up.
Yeah, but yes, because her father went off to India to seek his fortune, be military man, and forced to because Crown not entirely made clear, but her father is in India.
Yeah. Oh, Seb said, I assume about sending the pearls. He said that's the sort of thing I'd do to Ollie as a prank. Yes, I later found out it was Seb who did the Zach Dingle and Tractor mail thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I thought you said a bawdy home at first. Yes, I'm sure there was lots of innuendo in this Victorian bawdy home.
in your endo. Sorry, I will see myself out later.
Yeah, we're only through the inciting incident of the book. So, she's allowed to bring 2 friends if she's not... Like, she's been contacted and asked to meet someone anonymous somewhere neutral. and she's allowed to bring 2 friends if she's not confident.
Oh,
Carry on, Sherlock.
yeah. The pearls were every 1 a year for 6 years, not for 10 years. It's 10 years when the father's missing.
Still more than long enough to probably
Yeah,
assume they're dead.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Mary had asked Sherlock and Watson to come as her friends to this mysterious meetup.
And Watson, having basically fallen for her at first sight, jumps at the chance.
Yeah, and Holmes is just sort of like, oh, there's a slight mystery. Why not?
Yeah. And Watson says, she's a very attractive woman, and Holmes says, really? I hadn't noticed.
Yes, which will be sort of a continuing theme from my understanding of the Sherlock Holmes stories. Because the description I remember reading was studying a while ago was, by this I mean the best part of 10 years, is Sherlock Holmes is only ever interested in a woman as far as the mystery they bring her. The exception to the case is Irene Adler, who is the woman.
Yeah. Although, as with the last book, this book is being written from the perspective of Watson, and he does break away to often mention that Mary sometimes looks back on these times with him. So we know from that they end up together, because he's basically established it through, through the tone.
Narrative asides.
Yeah.
Yes, and we know that they're writing for the future because the book is set in the early 1880s, and ostensibly when it is published by Watson, and therefore we're able to read it, is the 1890s.
Yeah.
So slightly ahead of when it was actually published. Which was 1890 exactly.
Yeah. We forgot to mention at the beginning, it is established that Watson wrote A Study in Scarlet diegetically, and Sherlock read it and he didn't like it.
Yes, you bring too much attention to my methods and to my work.
Yeah. And also, it was too romantic.
Yeah. Just use the facts, dear boy.
Yeah, but the drama was there, says Watson.
Yes.
And of course, it's in this conversation we learn that Sherlock has written a paper how to identify about 25 different types of tobacco ash.
Yeah, it was mentioned in A Study in Scarlet, because he does identify a cigar ash. But he reveals he has written several monograms, and that his fame has also extended to France now, where he has consulted via telegram with had also then come over a French detective who's now translating his works into French.
Yeah.
And
that seems very in character. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he praises the French detective more than he praises any of Scotland Yard.
Oh yeah,
because he has 2 of the 3 qualities that make a great detective.
The one that he lacks is knowledge, and even that may come with time.
Yeah, he is lacking knowledge, but that may come with time, which is just sort of like, yes, that's generally how knowledge works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're not born with the access to all knowledge. I mean, frankly, that would be terrifying, but... Sad.
Oh my.
Oh my. I said he came upon, not came over.
I mean...
Get the equally innuendo language right.
I mean, that's no harder to twist.
Yeah, I know, I'm just going for the accuracy.
Oh, the little
But
girl from Dune was. Oh, sorry, what? I, I don't understand. Anyway, where were we?
that's in there by Timothy Chalamet in the film, or Chalamet, whatever. But never mind. Anyway, Mary Wilson has left at this point, but is to return at 6 exactly to collect Sherlock and Watson to go to the theatre to meet their mysterious messenger. And this is where they have the conversation about Mary, and then I believe Watson takes rest for a short while because his constitution is still not back to full strength.
Not before calling Sherlock an automaton.
Yes, there is that as well.
Oh, she was born with all the knowledge in the world. I mean, the little sister that wasn't born in the... Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I was caught on the other bit, but anyway, and then so 6 o'clock comes around, and Sherlock has heard the four-wheeler that Mary Molston is coming in, and they go to the theatre where they are met by
Oh, what was his name? Oh.
Yes. Oh yeah, there was actually going back to when Mary was here, there was a bit that was missed, which was a hand-drawn map which had a note that Mary had taken from her father's desk years ago when he first went missing, that she thought was of significance. The hand-drawn map which had the words "the sign of the four," or Jonathan Small,
Mohammed Singh, Abdullah Khan, and Dost Akbar.
Yeah, and 4 small cross-like symbols on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they go to the theatre and they are approached by a man who is
That is Sholto.
Yeah, they're approached by Sholto's coachman.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't meet Sholto until they actually get to the house.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they've taken to employing prize fighters as bodyguards.
Yes, and they go to
Oh, I see. Oh.
Yeah. They travel across London, in which Watson rues his lack of knowledge of the roads.
Whereas Holmes seems quite comfortable. He knows where they are at all times.
Yeah.
So basically, it was a bit like when we play Hitman together. I'm completely lost, and you know exactly where I am at all times.
Yeah, so the enforcer to your left. Left! No, turn right! The enforcer's to your left. You don't want to be... Oh, dear. But, yes, Holmes knows where they are, and they are taken to what Watson describes as an unpleasant neighbourhood. Not necessarily bad, but unpleasant, so sort of you'd imagine still probably around £1 million today. Because London.
Yeah.
And they're taken to it, and they knock at the door, and they are immediately greeted by an Indian butler, whose name we never get given, as far as I remember. A weedy, high-pitched voice, I believe they described it as, calls through almost immediately after as bring them to me, show them to me, quickly. And we meet the first of the Sholto brothers, who are a set of twins. That is, surprisingly, for a murder mystery, not actually relevant to how the murder was done.
Yeah. that's kind of a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, but I think the trope came in after this. We got
Ah,
to let we got to let some other writers have tropes, invent tropes of the format. Yes, I'm trying to remember what this brother's name is.
uh, well, I know the anxious one was
Oh,
Thaddeus. Uh,
yes, this would be Thaddeus because it was Bartholomew who is not the anxious one.
yeah,
We
uh,
meet Thaddeus Schultz or
who,
Schultz.
upon learning that Watson is a doctor, asks him to examine his chest.
Yes, did you bring your stethoscope? But he's worried about one of the valves of his heart. He's always had doubts about it. What's a Watson's summation of the man is a confirmed first class hypochondriac
uh,
uh, who asks him on the who asks him in a little bit while they're taking a carriage over to see Brother Bartholomew, who is just actually Bartholomew. He is not a priest. It is his brother, who is called Bartholomew. Who on the way, he asks Watson about basically every crackpot medicine that's on the market, and Watson rather goes on autopilot and
yeah, just sort of tunes him out.
goes on autopilot and just does recommendations when asked the questions. It's just like, don't have too much of that, have a bit more of that. It's just utter sort of like automatically on autopilot for the whole thing.
uh, but he was thinking about Mary.
Yeah. But it is revealed in the house that the fate of Captain Morstan
Yeah,
is that
they just sort of blurt out that he was dead.
Yes.
And Watson says, "I could have struck him across the face for saying such a personal
in
thing."
the way he said it. Yeah. Yes, and
Just to further establish, yeah, Watson has very strong feelings for Mary.
yeah, a woman who at this point he's met less than 12 hours earlier.
And been in the company of for maybe 1 hour.
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah. And yeah, it's revealed that Thaddeus is the person who sent the pearls to Mary.
Yeah.
And it was the wish of their father, because he and Captain Morstan came upon a treasure in India, which Major Sholto had smuggled back to England and kept on, and but he refused to share, as it was, and Captain Morstan came back and demanded his half when he finally arrived back in England, and during the argument and when he was like checking the treasure, he had a heart attack, smacked his head on the edge of the treasure box, and died. And yeah, so the mystery of Mary's father's death is heart attack and corner of a box. But
Yeah.
that is not the main murder of the piece, though it is a murder of the piece.
The main murder of the piece is just about to happen.
Yeah, but it is revealed that the treasure in question is worth £500,000 at the time. Which
Oh, hold on. Let me just run the numbers here. I forgot to do that.
yeah, which is I'm going to hazard it's going to be in the 8 figures rather than the 6.
Okay, so 1890, you say?
Yes. But at the while it's being worked out, at the news that Mary is possibly in line to get £250,000 worth of gems, Watson is rather put out because that would make her one of the wealthiest heiresses in England.
And therefore out of his league.
Yeah, and therefore, or sort of completely and utterly out of his league, as he is a part-time doctor essentially at the moment because he's on leave.
£500,000 in 1890 in today's money is £54,451,593 and 32 pence.
So possibly able to buy a house in London.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just a one-bedroom
Maybe
apartment.
two.
Yes, maybe two. Yeah, so yeah, we'll put him a little out of there when he's on what 12 shillings a week from the army at the moment, or something ridiculous like that.
And to put that into perspective, Bob Cratchit made 15 shillings a week in A Christmas Carol.
Yes. Yeah, and that was and
I'm sure we'll get to that around Christmas.
yeah, switching awful and do that. It also just gives us an excuse to watch Muppets Christmas Carol again. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So on the news that Mary was about to get, because she was going to get half of that, was the theory. Mary was going to be at about 27 million roughly in today's money.
Yeah.
So Watson is put out, and but Sholto, Major Sholto, and his housekeeper, who thinks that his master murdered Captain Morstan, hide the body and then hide the treasure. The only thing that they leave out is a coronet with a dozen pearls in it.
And, like, if even his manservant doesn't believe that he didn't kill him, he has no confidence that the police or a jury will. So...
Yeah. The body. But 4 years later, he's on his deathbed and confesses this to his sons.
And the birth of the trope, he's about to tell them the location of the treasure. Then he dies.
Yeah, though just before he dies, in between about to tell them and dying, he spots a horrifying familiar face from the past. A tanned, bearded man is at the window.
Oh no!
Yeah, with a shock of hair, is just sort of like that. He clearly knows who he is, and there is a great problem to him that this person is there.
And he's like, get him away, get him out, get him out, get him out. And then by the time they do, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. And the brothers spend, particularly Bartholomew, spend the next 6 years basically digging up the garden trying to find the treasure. And there's a sort of like Bartholomew does almost like a brilliant sort of archaeological dig method of doing it, where every inch of the garden is plotted, mapped, planned, meticulous notes are taken, and all of that and making sure that not a single piece of dirt remains unturned. Absolute hell for the landscaping, I imagine, but I also think they care. They'd have money enough to do the landscape, to redo the landscaping.
And also, you got to respect how thorough they were in the inspections.
Yeah, but during this, Thaddeus decided to leave because he didn't necessarily feel safe at home. Is implied that also just sort of like the chaos and the energy and his hypochondria is not a good combination. Yeah. Because he believes it was because in the sweltering heat, well, not sweltering heat, but in a decent temperature, he's wearing deep winter clothing to go outside because he says he does not take to it well. So oh yeah, he is not given a particularly flattering description. Sort of almost droopy lips, odd-size eyes, and stuff like that. The
Yeah, there are many
the
very
shelter.
unflattering descriptions in this book.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, they're meant to be half Indian.
Yeah,
Yeah. So don't get that. So a moment
remember
of
that because it's going to be important context for just how not good certain aspects of this story are.
yeah, the though Thaddeus considers himself a man of taste and refinement, and admittedly going by the insides of his house, it is more evident than the outside because it is decorated in fine curtains, silks, and painting. Of a bit of a mishmash of a combination of Indian and French. Seems was what I picked up from the art pieces he talked about. Though probably those higher up in society who are British would probably disagree with him being a man of culture and refinement.
Ah,
Probably on principle more than anything else.
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, when they're
Moving.
yeah, there's one other clue that needs to be said out. The morning after, when they went to try and find the man who frightened their father to death when they're just like chasing through the gardens and stuff. When they come back and find their father dead, there is a note pinned to his body that reads the sign of 4.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. But the current reason why they have summoned Mary and a couple of friends as she feels she needs them, because Thaddeus has found the treasure and she wants oh God, what's it? I've said it several. No, Thaddeus hasn't found the treasure. Bartholomew's found the treasure, and Thaddeus wants Mary with him and a couple of friends so they can present a united front to claim their shares, which Thaddeus apparently is a more honourable man than his father because he believes that half of it should go to Mary and that he and his brother should only receive a quarter each. Which a fair number of people would try and wrangle for a third.
Yeah.
And it's implied that Bartholomew doesn't want to share it even with Thaddeus.
Yeah, this is true.
Having stayed at Upper Norwood, the home where they lived with their father.
I do want to mention they weren't going to let them in, and then Sherlock Holmes just pipes up in front of the doorman, who is a boxer, and he knows him.
Yeah, because they had a sparring match. This is apparently how strange or like how little there was to do in society. That the guy remembers a sparring match from about 15 years earlier, and remembers from just like the description of a vicious uppercut or something like that. That he remembers who it is, and that he then goes from, sorry, can't let strangers into, oh, please, come in.
Yeah, and your friends as well. Like, if you vouch for them, Sherlock.
Sherlock didn't even need to vouch for them. He was just there, and the guy went, oh, if you're coming in, then everyone's welcome. But, yeah, as they get to Upper Norwood and they get through the door after the guard recognizes Sherlock, there is I think the description is something like the most horrible sound, one of the most horrible sounds in the world, a woman screaming in fear coming from inside the house. And at this point, in a state of shock, Mary and Watson link hands.
Yeah. And he does reminisce. It's like, we often She has since told me that it was her instinct to come to me for comfort as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's described as the most natural thing in the world. But Thaddeus goes to the house alone to at first to check and also alert the housekeeper that there was additional people who would be coming. And then he comes out in a panic, practically fanning himself on the edge of fainting, is the image I got in my head. And say, "Oh, you must come at once. You must come. You must see this." It's on to Watson and Holmes, and it's just like he hasn't. He himself, it is revealed, hasn't actually seen what he is telling them that they must see.
Right.
He's relying on the word of his brother's housekeeper, who is back in her chambers by the door, near inconsolable, and Mary stays and looks after her in a bit that Watson comments on later as is an amazing capability of a woman who is able to put aside her own terror and worries to look after another woman who needs it more. Or there's always sort of an edge of it of a woman of a lower class who needs it more is the element I feel even though
Yeah. I mean, he
and
doesn't
Mary,
say that.
yeah, but the housekeeper and Mary would likely have been of the same in sort of social standing because Mary Morstan is a governess of no inheritance at this point because
Yeah.
the treasure had been recovered, in which the treasure was found in a crawl space in the ceiling of 4 to 6 foot of a fake ceiling. They found the box just propped on 2 rafters. So that's where they managed to find it. They spent 6 years digging up the garden for nothing, and then Bartholomew measures every inch of the house inside and out and finds this gap. And lo and behold, there is the treasure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mary is looking after the housekeeper and is therefore fine for the moment. And Holmes and Watson both go upstairs and
Examine the crime scene.
yeah. Well, the door is locked from the inside at this point. We're getting the first locked room mystery in Sherlock Holmes. And they look through the keyhole because the key's not straight, it's partially turned. So they can see through a tiny bit of it. And Holmes, I don't know why I'm acting it out because you can't see me do it. Looks through it and like for half a second goes up and goes, Watson, look through it. Watson does, and then near enough has a heart attack himself, sounds like. Because inside he sees an unnaturally grinning face that is an exact double of their companion Thaddeus. And it is then that we are reminded that that he said they were twins. But he's in a rictus grin. He is suffering from rigor mortis quite badly.
Yeah. And upon a quick examination, we soon determined the cause of death to have been a poisoned dart.
Yes, in the ear.
Yeah.
Yes, that area famous for extreme blood flow. We get another moment of Holmes and Watson displaying their combined strength as they kick the door down to get in, because the room is indeed locked, and the window is closed, and
they solve the mystery of the trap door very quickly.
Yeah, and they're trying to go through it, and Holmes has basically just looked at the scene and goes, I know how they got in.
Yeah.
But they advise their companion, Thaddeus, to go and contact the police immediately after it has already been... Thaddeus has already admitted that he was the last one to see his brother, and they put the information together.
Yeah.
So Thaddeus goes and gets the police within 30 minutes, and Holmes does some minor examining and then quizzes Watson as to the way that this could be done.
Yeah. Now,
And
I expected the policeman that shows up to be Lestrade. I thought, like, that was
Yeah.
going to be how these books went. Like,
Lestrade or Gregson.
yeah, because, like, those are the cops that know Sherlock and Watson, and they'd be more likely to go, alright, yeah, I'll give it a look.
Yeah. But in the half an hour, Holmes points out a lot of things, including like the strangeness of there's a stone club and left on the table. He finds the thorn and says, "Be very careful. This is likely poisoned. It's nasty," and points out that it's like got a curved end, so it's been cut and shaped, and that the thorn itself is not native to the British Isles. And they locate the hatch on the roof, if that allowed the person to get in, and also he figures out that it's a full-grown man who is missing his right leg, or missing a leg, and has a wooden stump.
Yeah. And one much smaller individual with a very small foot that has trodden in what was it? What was the
Creosote.
creosote? So I'll be referring to the person in question as Mr. Creosote from now on. Because God knows it's better than what Arthur Conan Doyle wrote about this individual.
Yes. So we are made to believe it was a child. And yeah, and the box has got. The box is also gone. The box of treasure has also been taken, and Thaddeus was very put out by this.
As one would expect.
Yeah, quarter of a million is just sort of like, for that you could, I think at the time, you could have bought about a quarter of London.
Seb says it sounds like a mundane Bond villain. Do you not get the reference of Mr. Creosote? It was a Monty Python's The Meaning of Life reference, Seb.
Yeah, it could also be David Dickinson.
Yeah.
But yeah, the detective then arrives, whose name I cannot remember offhand, but he is he has worked with Sherlock before, but he thinks Sherlock lucky rather than brilliant.
Athelney Jones, I believe, is the detective.
Yes, we'll go with Jones and
Yeah, Detective Jones. Oh,
yes.
just a small detail. The treasure is referred to as the Agra treasure.
Yeah.
AGRA, which is where Stephen Moffat got that for Sherlock. Though he wasn't talking about treasure.
Yeah. And so the inspector arrives, has a look, comes to his conclusion. He finds the trapdoor in the ceiling half open because Holmes left it half open. He comes to the conclusion that it was Thaddeus and that there were others involved. So he arrests Thaddeus and sends him the carriage, and Sherlock...
Which is exactly what Thaddeus was anxious about, and they assured him would not happen.
Sherlock also assured them that if they did arrest him, that when they did arrest him, he was like, "Oh, I will. You will not be charged. We will have you.
Don't worry, I'll have you out in a jiff, mate."
Yeah. Sherlock stays and observes Detective Jones and his energetic investigation, while Watson is sent to take Mary back to her employer,
which he's only too happy to do.
Yeah, and then pick up a dog called Toby, I believe it is.
Yeah,
from a naturalist.
Yeah.
No, that this is 1 a.m. This is currently happening.
Yeah, so he tries to turn him away, and the moment he mentions Sherlock Holmes' name, he says, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, and it doesn't even allow him to finish the sentence. It's like, why didn't you say, come on in?
Yeah.
So, in the books, Sherlock Holmes actually has a lot of friends who are very fond of him, to the point that they will instantly trust anyone as long as they drop his name.
Yeah, it's just, oh, you're a friend of Sherlock Holmes? Why didn't you say? Come in, quickly. Get out of the cold. Oh, and yeah, no, this guy was 5 seconds earlier prepared to shoot Watson.
Yeah. And then he just went, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. It's like, well, why didn't you say?
Yeah, but when he's on his way to drop Mary back, is revealed through one of the asides that Mary has confided in him over the years that he seemed quite distant and cold.
Yeah. Oh, Seb, I'm referring to a character in the book as Mr. Creosote because it's better than the very insensitive description that exists for this character in the book.
Yeah. But, yeah. And it is revealed that the Mary's employer is actually a dear friend of her. And Watson considers this a good thing, because, well, a woman he likes is just the trauma. She also broke down in the carriage, and that's where we got the description of a woman that can put aside their own pain to look after someone else who needs it more.
So it says, as black as a black man's cape. Believe it or not, it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
The description we have is worse.
Yeah, it is. And we are.
And then Seb just says, a woman.
A woman.
Oh.
A woman. A woman. That's what we should have in the background instead of the crackling of fire, just quietly every now and then. A woman. Yes. So Watson goes and gets the dog, and then makes it back to Upper Norwood by just gone 3 a.m. Which is also roughly when he estimated he would be back.
And I love this bit. They have the dog sniff a handkerchief with the creosote on it, with with Mr. Creosote's scent on it, and the dog leads them off, and halfway up there is sort of like a fork in the trail, if you will, a fork in the road. That there is one of two ways this dog could go, and it leads them and off one way, and they run after it, and it leads them right to a big stockpile of creosote.
That's a woodworking yard, because creosote is a preservative.
To which both Holmes and Watson just can't help but laugh, and I really love that moment. Like, yeah. That's one of the highlights of this book for me, is that, like, the one time that they screw up and it's funny. So they just go back to where that split in the trail was, and the dog soon leads them off the other way.
Yeah, there is a brief bit before the dog leads them off where they are working it out, and Holmes is working out the route that was climbed. So we get this image of Holmes climbing over the roof and then down the drain pipe, like he's in the game of Hitman.
Yeah.
And that's where he finds a pouch decorated with beads that contain more of these thorns. And he concludes that the man used to blow pipe to administer them. Yes, they then go on their adventure with the dog, and they talk more. And Sherlock's opinion of this dog is also higher than his opinion of most of Scotland Yard.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes is very nice in this book, but like,
unless you're Scotland Yard.
Yeah, unless you're of Scotland Yard. Like, he's very nice generally. He just doesn't have a high opinion of Scotland Yard.
Yeah, but he does update Watson when he arrives that Detective Jones has arrested about 4 other members of staff at the house, and he's frankly surprised that he didn't try and arrest Sherlock himself just for being there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
and the 2 men walk through the night like the sun has risen by the time they get to the point where the dog cannot help them anymore, because it leads them to a jetty on the river, and it's evident that the person has taken a boat.
Yeah.
The dog, no matter how strong the smell of creosote, they can't exactly walk on water.
Yeah. So they need a boat.
Yeah, but they make inquiries with Mr. Smith, or Mrs. Smith, because the one they stopped is a Smith, and they make inquiries about steamboat cutter, basically, and that is what was just rented and stuff like that. And Sherlock starts making deductions, but doesn't tell Watson any of them, and they go home for breakfast. In which, by the time they get back and they're eating the breakfast, the morning paper has arrived, and it has a description of the crime and the arrest of Thaddeus and several of the house staff. And Sherlock is just a bit impatient and things, and is thinking. And after they've eaten, because they've been up all night, he tells Watson to lie down on the sofa and get some sleep while he himself plays a tune of his own devising on the violin. Watson sleeps. He comes back up hours later. Holmes has stopped playing the violin, but is read, has smoked, and is just thinking. Holmes has summoned his irregulars.
Yeah.
And set them on the task to find the Aurora, the cutter he was inquiring about earlier from Mrs. Smith. Yes, and is paying them a shilling a day. Fair amount.
Yeah.
Street urchin?
Yeah. Well, we said what the book calls them last week, but we'll be referring to them as street urchins. As that is mildly, that is a mildly better name to call them.
Yes. But it's also at this point where they have a discussion as there isn't anything else they can do. Where they have a discussion about Holmes's theory on the shorter person, and that no, it is not a child. He makes comments about how their footprints went into the ground and stuff like that, and the shape of their toes, basically, meaning that they have never worn a boot. Is the long and short of it. Or shoes of any kind. And he pulls out a book that has descriptions of the natives of various islands, or the aborigines of various islands, as he refers to them, which basically means native. So yes, it isn't a long term. And he deduces it's one that's, oh god, I can't remember where exactly, but it's a native of a cannibal, or an island with cannibals. So the natives utilize darts, stones, clubs, are sub 4 foot in height, and less flattering descriptions follow that.
Yeah.
Basically, a shaved orangutan would be a more kind description than what they give.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why I defaulted to Mr. Creosote. Or a Jovito's blowgunner, if you like.
Yeah. The creosote darter.
Yeah.
So yes, it's and so Holmes deducts onto them because the description of they are hard to make yourself understood, but what you do, they are fast friends for life. This is just sort of okay. So translation a bit simple, and overly trusting.
Yeah.
or that's sort of the energy that came across. Also, but
Yeah, that is the implication is pretty clear.
yeah, but Watson then goes and updates Mary Morstan and her friend, the friend had asked to update, and Sherlock's going, "Oh, so you're going to update the friend? Is that all?" Or, sort of,
He
you can hear
knows.
the eye roll in his voice.
He
as
knows.
Yeah, of course he knows.
He's Sherlock Holmes, of course he knows.
Yeah, and it's not an astronomy fact, so of course he knows.
Yeah.
But yes, I feel like I'm forgetting a bit because
Well,
I know Watson comes back and there's another night of rest, but it feels like there's something else in there that I've forgotten.
let's see.
Oh yeah, the Watson also takes Toby back.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they do rest that night, and the next Watson has this what he thinks is almost a fever dream for a moment, where Holmes, in sort of like a fisherman's jacket and cap and a red scarf, in the middle of the night, is just standing beside his bed and said, "I'm going out. You are to act in my stead, and I don't know when I'll be back."
Oh yes, and then an old man comes to the door, saying that he has a message for Sherlock Holmes only. And Watson says, "Well, I'm acting for him. You can tell it to me." And he refuses. And they basically accost this man and tell him to wait for Holmes.
Yeah, this is also with Detective Jones, who has come back. The morning paper revealed that the brother and the housekeeper both have airtight alibis and have been released, and two others are still in holding. And in light of new evidence, which Watson says is shorthand for they got it wrong and they have no idea.
Yeah.
Watson has picked up Holmes's opinion of Scotland Yard to an extent. And Detective Jones has come to Baker Street because he's received a telegram from Holmes saying to meet him in Baker Street.
Yeah. Or at least Watson understands how Holmes came by that opinion.
Yeah. And, pardon me, then the man, the old sailor with the sort of the workman's cough is, I believe, how Jones refers to it. And sort of like the droop and the stance of having struggled to walk for so, like struggling and walking, and limp is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
With the stance, the cough, the beard, the tufts of white hair coming out.
Yeah, it just screams ex-miner, doesn't it?
Yeah, even though he's meant to be an ex-fisherman. Because the descriptions he's in fisherman's clothes, fisherman's hat. In which, if you're paying attention, it's the same description they gave as the clothes Holmes was wearing in the middle of the night.
Yeah, yeah.
They just don't mention the red scarf.
Sorry, I got thrown off when you said workman's cough. My brain went to miner.
Yeah, that's also where mine went when it did that. But the description of that. And Watson and Jones keep accost the guy, put there. They're evidently not watching him particularly closely, and they're like
says everybody is an ex-miner. Miner, not miner.
One who digs. He digs the raw material for the outside halves, 2 miles beneath the ground. Yeah, so Ollie is particularly tickled by that joke, apparently. But while they're smoking cigars, waiting for Holmes to buy, they get from behind them. "Are you going to offer me one of those?" And it's Holmes who has revealed his disguise. And Jones tries to make the claim, I thought that was you. The eyes gave it away. Watson was completely taken in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he reveals that he has managed to locate the Aurora, and that the disguise is necessary because criminals have begun to become aware of him, especially now after Watson has published a study in Scarlet. So now he has to affect disguises more.
Yeah.
And they found the Aurora. It had been taken in for some minor work to be done on its rudder. So it was in a shed, which is why the irregulars and the police and uh, um, other resources they're just described as have been unable to find it because they were physically looking on the water, not in the repair yards and boats. Right. And while he's there, Smith, the owner of it, comes down and demands drunkenly that it be made ready to launch at 8 o'clock sharp that evening. And Sherlock and Jones come to an arrangement of Sherlock will help deliver them. The police need to provide a boat, a couple of burly police officers, and let Sherlock question him to get the full story and the details, either in Baker Street or at the station. And that is described as most irregular, getting all the details by Jones. Probably in the house. Else, Watson and Holmes get their guns and prepare, and they meet at the skiff, and they go down the river, and they're waiting. And one of the irregulars is standing there, standing watching, and will wave his handkerchief when he sees the Aurora leave, so that they can keep an eye on there.
Yeah.
And there's talking where Holmes is shooting down every other course of action. And that, why couldn't we have just sent officers to sort of wait there and arrest them before they go to sleep? Oh no, they will have a lookout and they will keep their eye out, and they'll just hunker down for a week longer if they suspect that they're being observed, stuff like that. So he shoots down every idea, which is occasionally, if done well, I do actually like that there, where the author is directly addressing the questions the reader may have, going, no, this is why this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Well, this is closer to well than not. So it works. And they start following them down the river until a barge gets in the way, and they lose the element of being able to almost look like they're leisurely following, because they then have to employ the Jeremy Clarkson method on anything to catch up with them. Speed and power!
Yeah, so they do eventually catch up with them, and
there is a 5-mile boat chase along the Thames.
So they do eventually catch up. Mr. Creosote shoots a poison dart, but it misses, and
for his trouble takes 2 bullets, one from Holmes, one from Watson, falls over the side of the boat and drowns.
yeah, I mean he's falling into the River Thames. Like, I mean, even if the bullet wounds weren't fatal, he is definitely getting a lethal infection from that.
Especially with bullet wounds.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's no way he survives.
Yeah, and then until he reappears in a later story, maybe, but I don't think he does. Probably would have appeared in more adaptations if he did.
Yeah. Oh God, I dread to imagine.
Yeah, I would think they'd change him a bit and just have him as sort of like a killer rather than, for want of a better term, a pygmy cannibal.
I didn't want to say that, but yeah, that's what it made me think of.
Yeah, well, that's basically what the stereotype is that he's based on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the the man they are chasing, the tan bearded man, who is the only one with the English sounding name, Jonathan Smith from The Sign of the Fall,
Yeah.
is trying to flee on an embankment that is mostly swamp at the time. I cannot for the life of me remember which one. But because of how it is because of his wooden leg, he is not able to actually walk on it properly, and his leg sinks in. And they manage to capture him, and it takes wrapping rope around him and pulling from the boat to actually get him dislodged from the water.
Yeah.
Not from the mud.
Yeah. He's jammed in there pretty good.
Yeah, and he's taken it. Oh yeah, there was I've just remembered another condition which is relevant to it. That Watson be allowed to take over the treasure to Mary Morstan so that she may claim her share of it, as it is rightfully hers, as far as they are aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think is the bit they refer to as most and regular. But I'd forgotten it when I was telling the rest of it.
Yeah.
But they agree. So they claim this box, which is a Indian ironwork box, which of a decent size and weight, and is well crafted. And when they ask Jonathan Smith, "Where's the key?" And they throw it in the Thames. And when we're running, he is just sort of like, okay, but they tow the Aurora. They have Jonathan in the boat.
So when does the London cab driver turn up? That was the last week's story.
Yeah.
That was a study in Scarlet. You can go back and listen on this channel.
Yes. Yes. But Watson gets dropped off early with an officer and the box because they're not going to leave Watson on his own with the box. He's not Sherlock Holmes, for goodness sake. He's not trusted by everyone.
Yeah.
So they take it round, and the officer stays in the carriage outside for what is, by the time he sort of comes back, it's implied to have been a few hours.
Right.
Or at least a couple, because the officer seems to be tired. But Watson takes the treasure in, and Mary, he's overplaying sort of like his cheer and how happy he is that it was reclaimed. And Mary is struggling to hide the disappointment of it being claimed.
Yeah.
Because it seems her thoughts are on the same line of, oh bugger, I'm now out of his reach.
So he puts a knife into the box and jimmies it open, and it's empty.
Yeah, the box is a good 3/4 of an inch thick and solid. I think they describe it as.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of weight, but it is completely empty. The long and the short of it is, Watson basically goes Kalukale, note I like the presents, and confesses his love.
Yeah.
Note they met 3 days ago.
It's empty, and Watson goes, "Thank God."
Yeah. You're not out of my reach. And Mary returns the feeling, and they are engaged to be wed that very moment.
Yes. And of course, this is Sherlock Holmes, so the villain of the piece, as with last week, explains their backstory and motivation.
Oh yes, it's perfectly cordial. Oh, it's a fair cop. I'll just confess everything and explain everything, and confess to additional crimes you did not know.
Yeah.
But admittedly, in his case, not necessarily will be prosecuted for, given they were committed in India.
Yeah, and he threw out the treasure. He threw it out piecemeal all over the River Thames during the boat chase, because basically he feels like he earned that treasure, so if he's going down, he's not letting anyone else have it.
And he also feels like the other three, for the side of the four, would agree with him because they made an agreement to act in the interest of all, not of themselves.
Yeah.
We'll come to how that came about in a moment, but he feels he's earned it, and that he'd be damned if it went to a Sholto or a Morstan. And he can't see if they didn't earn it, is how they looked.
Yeah, that is his logic.
Yeah, and yes, he is perfectly willing to explain everything. He's just sort of like, "Oh, it's fair cop, but let's be incredibly British about this in a way that I'm not sure the British ever were."
Yeah.
Incredibly British-ish. So he sets the scene that he was once a training. Well, he had a problem, a gambling problem, I think it was, or something, and his only way out of it was to take the King's shilling or the Queen's shilling and go to India in the military. But his military career was to be cut short because while swimming he was swimming in the Ganges, and an alligator bit his right leg clean off from just above the knee.
Oh.
So clean that a surgeon like clean, which, given at the time that possibly involved hacksaws, is not exactly brilliant.
Yeah, that's it's a lower bar than we would assume now.
Yes, a lower bar than we'd assume now. It may not have been quite that primitive, I cannot recall offhand, and I did mean to look it up and I forgot.
It happens.
And he got the stump, and it was just like, well, I'm out of the military already, but he was pardon me. That's his commanding officer, who is also the one who saved him by dragging him out of the Ganges. He's being one of the strongest swimmers in the regiment. His commanding officer had a friend who worked, I want to say, a tea plantation or something along those lines.
I think a tea plantation was mentioned.
Yeah, and he was in need of essentially a foreman or a manager, was the phrase they used. So basically someone to go around, keep an eye on the workers, and then tell the boss who was the lazy one so they could be replaced or punished. Yeah. A snitch, that was it.
Yeah.
And he got good accommodations, good pay, and became good friends with the master of the house.
Master of the house. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Not that kind, but it also went through my head. But a rebellion broke out in the area. The 1857 rebellion. This is indigo plantation. That was it.
Ah.
Yeah, so plants for dyes, which would probably actually have been more lucrative than tea at the time.
Oh, I see.
But the rebellion occurred, and he was out in the fields one day, had finished his day's work, and was coming back, and basically the plantation house and everything was on fire. The lady of the house was dead in the middle of the road. The master of the house was also dead in the road further on, with 4 locals shot dead around him. And some of the locals spotted him, or the rebel forces. Admittedly, in this context, the locals just means Indian.
Yeah. And one of them basically takes him hostage and says, look, we don't want to kill you, but you're going to have to agree to work with us. Or
there's a fair bit of the book in between. There's a fair bit.
Oh, are we not there yet?
No, this is him that one spotted, and he fled, and he got to the nearest city, which was Agra. and they moved into the old Agra fortress, and he was recommissioned into the army or the military, along with others, and he had to. But what they did, there wasn't enough men to properly defend every entrance, and the whole place was sort of like a twist of corridors and, well, basically a maze. So what they did is they put one white man and several non-whites on every gate, and the idea was that the alarm, you raise the alarm, and the rest of the forces would come from the central barracks and save you before you were overrun and murdered.
Yeah.
Or killed in battle. They didn't have any particular hopes for it, but he slowly sort of got on with the two he was working with. Until one night, where he put his gun down and something. One of them, the others, picked up the gun and pointed at him, and the other came up to him with a large knife by the throat. I believe they were Sikh soldiers. Yeah,
I
Sikh.
think so.
Yeah, because they have very unflattering opinions of Hindus. False gods, craven pantheon, any vow they take is a lie and cannot be trusted. There's issues between the two faiths.
Yeah.
They basically give Jonathan an option. Either he can swear on his life, or that he loves, and the God that he follows, because he is a Christian man, and you can trust a follower of the Christian God because, basically because it's not a Hindu God.
Apparently.
Basis of the argument, and they swear on all that to aid them in their endeavour this night, and they will be rewarded. Or if he refuses, they will kill him right now and just throw him in the river.
I mean, it's not much of a choice, really, is it?
Yeah, there is supposed to. It's hinted at sort of like an idea of the patriotic idea came up of yelling and calling for help, but then was dismissed. So, but it turns out because of the rebellion, the Raja is concerned and is about his great wealth and is trying to keep it. So he's set it up so that like his great wealth is split. Like his gold and his silver will stay with him, and he will get it. Sort of like the Raja is, or the Snowball. It might not be the Maharaja, but it might just be a local Raja. Is able to keep hold of their money if I can't remember which way it is, but basically he will always have money available whichever side wins. And he sent one of his servants and with a chest full of jewels. To hide it in the old fortress as Agra. And he has sent one of his most trusted, and he is a trusted gardener. And the man is going disguised as a trader, and the chest supposedly contains keepsakes, is the story he gives. But the guard of the trader is the brother of one of the guards, the one holding the knife, I believe. And they basically plan to rob and kill the guy once he arrives. But the white man was not necessarily on board, so they were prepared to kill him. But he swears to join in on this. The man arrives, does that, is granted entry, and is led off to hide it somewhere by the guard and the guard's brother. The next we see of them is a Scream and the small but portly man, the merchant, ostensibly, is running without the chest, bleeding. Tried to kill him, and he looks like he's going to make it to the gate Jonathan doesn't intervene. So he trips him up, and then the brother kills him, kills the merchant, and they hide his body in a great hall where there's a hole in the ground and like the walls are crumbling down. So they put him in the hole in the ground and pile bricks atop. They then move the treasure into the same hall, but they all examine it and count it out. And there is a very exacting description of the gems that are inside. Diamonds, rubies, pearls, and all of that, which I cannot remember offhand.
Just a lot of jewels.
Yes, they make an agreement and the sign of 4, basically, and they hide it in one of the walls. Now, the problem is, a man who is paranoid enough to split his money so he will always have some in case things don't go his way, is also going to be paranoid of the man he entrusts with his money, that he's saying. And so the conspiracy is undone to an extent by the fact that
They don't trust each other.
yeah, well, no, the 4 of them trust each other. It's just that the Raj has sent another man to check that the first one actually arrived with the jewels, and he arrives the day after, and makes inquiries and learns that this man who should have beaten him here isn't in the main area, but he knows he made it because he saw him be granted entry.
Yeah.
So with suspicions, the guards do a search of the entire fortress in case this man has suddenly got ill intentions towards them, and they find his body.
I must confess, some of these details have escaped me because I don't remember a lot of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are promptly arrested, the 4 of them, because one is the man who travelled with them, and the other 3 are the people who guarded the gate he gained entry in. So, not exactly a long pool of suspects.
Yeah, not
And
really.
they're all sent to prison. And over time, they are stationed across. One is shipped to a different island. They get across, and because he was military and had some knowledge of medicine, Jonathan is transferred to work with the doctor, where he learns a lot. But on the other side of the, essentially from the medical quarters, or the hospital bed, where he watches over, the officers play cards with some of the locals on most nights. And it's just like the officers are losing badly. And the officers are Colonel Sholto and Captain Morrison. Or Morstan. Not Captain Morrison, that's very different, Captain.
Yeah.
And Smith comes up with an idea to try and get them out of this, him and his compatriots out of prison by offering Sholto and Morstan a 5th between them, which would be £25,000 each, roughly. Of gems, and an agreement is made, and copies of the map, because they made maps to a point where the treasure was, so they all had one, a sort of a trust. They made 2 more for Morrison and Sholto, and they came with an idea that Sholto would go and confirm that the treasure was there, leave it there, come back, and then he and Morrison would him and Morstan, not Morrison. Why have I suddenly gone into Morrison?
I don't know.
Him and Morstan would then get the others out, and they would all go collect and share the treasure. Guess what happens when Sholto goes and finds the treasure, unaccompanied by anyone else?
I don't. Oh. He steals it.
Yeah, he steals it for himself and goes back to England, resigns his commission, and then the papers report, even in India, that his uncle has died, and he has inherited a great fortune.
I was about to say, I don't know. I read the same book you did. Of course I...
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, everyone is pissed.
Yeah.
But Morstan is the only one that has a chance of actually getting there without getting any of it without it. So when his time is up, he retreats to England, and argument, heart attack, heads, and etc., etc. His death comes arguing about the treasure. It is implied but never stated that he seemed to be arguing to. Oh, for God's sake, what's the word I'm looking for? Honor the agreement they made originally.
Yeah.
He dies before it is been out, and Smith has been transferred to a different prison by this point, and uses his medical knowledge to. I think he's transferred to a different prison anyway. He uses his medical knowledge to help a local who is Mr. Creosote, and he realizes that he will basically do anything he wants. So he organizes for a boat to be gathered and an escape to be made, and at an unguarded jetty. And on the night of the escape, he feels that fate has come to help him because a fellow inmate he absolutely despises and has made his life hell is also there. So he bludgeons him to death with his wooden leg, then leaves.
Oh yeah, he hops 3 times, like 3 long hops.
And then a single mighty bludgeon, and he caves the front of the man's skull in.
It was actually an unusually graphic description of the attack.
Yeah, but they then capture take the small boat, catch a larger one. And he says that it takes them 7 years to get to England from it, and he learns that Sholto's near death because they get stuck on their own misadventures. Because apparently everyone out for vengeance gets stuck on misadventures for 7 years. It's happened twice in these books.
Yeah. I mean, that isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah, especially given we're only 2 in.
Yeah.
We learned that the death of Bartholomew was not planned and was entirely the doing of Mr. Creosote. Because the room was meant to be empty if he stuck to his normal schedules. He was meant to be having dinner when he was robbed.
Yeah.
But he was in there, so Creosote used his dart gun and got him in the ear with one, and it killed him. And he seemed so happy and was strutting about when he did, after he had hoisted Smith up to the window.
Yeah.
Smith not happy and had a great go at him and that, but they
and that was the commotion that his manservant heard that made him think he was the one who killed him.
Yeah. And the commotion that the manservant heard that made him think it was killing was an argument that led to a heart attack. This would have been a few years, 6 years early, 10 years earlier.
Ugh, there's so many similar events in this story.
Yeah.
They sort of blended together in my head. I've got to make more notes, I think.
The treasure chest is lowered out of the window by a rope that they brought. Creosote then locks the window again and climbs out the trapdoor in the roof the way he got in. And loses his darts, apart from the one that was still in the dart gun. And they make their way off with the treasure until they are found and captured. They had another conspirator, and I can't remember what their role in it was, but he again refused. I'll tell you all my secrets, but I ain't telling you theirs.
Yeah, there's a lot of echoes of A Study in Scarlet in that regard, including the whole thing of the villain just being very cordial and explaining themselves.
The whole thing of the white villain being very cordial.
Yeah.
But those who are villainous stock, quote unquote, not British, are all get rather horrible descriptions because, of course, the twins with the droopy face, the offensive islander,
Yeah.
and yeah, because of course the twins are the father of are the children of a man who has robbed people blind. Because yeah,
Yeah.
but the case is closed. The man is arrested and taken to the station, and Holmes and Watson are talking about. It seems slightly unfair.
What do you get out of this case? Because Jones gets all the credit, and I've got a wife out of this. What do you get? It's a momentary enjoyment, but at least there's always the cocaine bottle,
which he reaches for to close out the book.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes, that is another rather rambling explanation of the book. Like seriously, the book it's 4.25 hours long, the audio book, and we have spoken on it for an hour 40 already.
Yeah. No, I kind of like this format. I just I've realised upon doing this that I need to make some more notes because I read it less than 24 hours ago. And I forgot a lot of the villain's explanation.
Yeah, the villain's explanation was also significantly less of the book this time.
Yeah.
Because the villain's explanation was about half the book in A Study in Scarlet, whereas this one would charitably be a sixth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, on the whole, I would say I much preferred A Study in Scarlet. I found Jefferson Hope to be a much more likable character. And, well, I mean, sequels are difficult, aren't they? Because you can't take up page time establishing the main characters because we already know who they are.
Yes.
And, well, obviously, and this one introduced Sherlock Holmes's cocaine habit.
Yeah. It's also implied he also partakes of heroin because Watson asks what it is today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got two habits.
He's a connoisseur of sorts.
Yeah, he's described as having we probably should have put trigger warning for drug use at the beginning of this rather than at the end of it, but
yeah. I'll put one in the description.
Yeah, it describes Sherlock's arms as covered with syringe puncture marks.
Yeah.
But it introduces that. Jefferson Hope comes across as a lot more likable because he feels a lot more justified.
Yeah.
Whereas this man is like he killed to acquire the treasure. He's then killed.
Then he threw it away out of bitterness to prevent someone else who actually had more claim on it from getting it.
Yes. Yes, but on the flip side, it then meant that Watson was happy.
Yeah, so it all worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and the only bit that was actually taken from the treasure was the coronet of which the pearls were taken from. So in many ways, Mary did actually get half the treasure because she got half the pearls from the coronet, which is the only bit that didn't end up at the bottom of the Thames.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, as I say, I still enjoyed it, but it is.
Yeah, I found it weaker than A Study in Scarlet.
Yeah,
Yeah. It did feel very Adventure of the Week.
yes, which is what I'd more expect from the short stories rather than the novels.
Yeah, and uh, like the A Study in Scarlet felt more like it felt much grander, uh, and maybe that's because because with the origin story, the Jefferson Hope flashback, it encompassed a great deal of time to explain why everything happened,
Yeah,
which
and also
isn't really present here.
yeah, it also like the Jefferson Hope part starts of like a massive expanse of nothingness, and then like hope, and then a city growing. It's sort of like it's a bit more, or sort of captures the imagination, particularly of Europeans. I would say, from my understanding of our cultural zeitgeist,
Yeah,
based on sort of like the Europeans' ideas that we still haven't quite abandoned of colonizing and conquering the world
yeah,
and stuff like that. It taps into a part of the brain that we really need to sort of die down a bit to keep the world a bit less on the edge of nuclear war.
yes, indeed. And despite the grand scale in the last book, the stakes were very small and personal. And this is almost the inverse of that. Is that the scale is a lot smaller, but the stakes are much larger. And while not impersonal, there's you know, I mean, Mary is glad to have lost the treasure. So like, obviously the stakes weren't that high for her on a personal level. But
Yeah,
like,
realistically, she got what she wanted out of it, an explanation of what happened to her father and a husband. She
yeah,
didn't go to it wanting a husband. She just happened to meet a man that she fell in love with in 3 days.
indeed. This is why I described it as the cliff notes of a romance subplot.
Yes.
Uh, Still, that wasn't the focus, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. Nowadays, admittedly, that would be drawn out over 4 or 5 books,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, or 3 or 4 chapters if it was a Mills and Boons romance.
yeah, maybe. Uh, so yeah, it's not a bad read if you can adjust for the content being. Uh, I mean, calling it of a different time is very charitable, but
Yeah,
also accurate.
yeah, because it's 135 years ago this book was published. So
Yeah.
don't think there's anyone who was alive when it was published.
No, I don't believe so. Uh,
Yeah,
but at any rate, yeah, good read, good read. Looking forward to the next one. Uh, the uh, I was gonna say something and then it went out of my head. Curses. Uh, uh,
Says.
yeah. There is definitely a pre-existing relationship that feels a lot more comfortable now between Holmes and Watson.
Yes.
Like they've clearly been living together a long time and are to a point used to each other, and like for better and worse because Watson's not even angry about the drug use anymore. He's just like, oh, which one was it this time?
Yeah, it was just sort of like judging over the slightly folded corner of a newspaper he's in the process of reading.
Yeah.
Which one is it this time?
Yeah. Which for the second story in, I do like that because, it lets us know that life does in fact go on outside of these stories, and it's been a while since A Study in Scarlet, which is why he's so bored
Yes.
as to resort to drug use.
Yes, and though it hasn't been so long that Watson is expected to return to the army after his 9 months are up, though he may very well retire his commission.
Yeah, though
resign his character was the word I was looking for.
He's definitely you can feel that he's definitely got comfortable.
Yes, yes.
That's the word I keep coming back to for their relationship. They're comfortable with each other.
Oh yeah, Sherlock does bemoan Watson's engagement.
Oh yeah, he
Because-
says I can't congratulate you on it.
Yeah, because it's a distraction from the deductive arts.
Yeah.
That bit seems quite consistent.
It's like the most passive aggressive as long as you're happy ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
less passive, more aggressive, but just in the bit bracket where it's still passive aggressive.
I'm getting married, you fucking twat. No.
You bastard, I mean, congratulations.
It's not quite as bad as that, because Sherlock Holmes is a very polite man. Which
Yes,
is
even when he's telling you that you have no hopes of promotion in Scotland Yard, of which he has a very low opinion anyway.
yeah, and that's a thing I think has been lost in the cultural zeitgeist about Sherlock Holmes is he's really nice. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he does what he does because he wants to help people who might not otherwise get help. And you know, even when he's insulting you, he doesn't want to just straight up insult you.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
very caring man.
Yeah, I suspect, because I've only seen clips, I haven't watched all the way through, I suspect the Peter Cushing Sherlock Holmes may capture it a bit more than the most modern adaptations.
I think that's I think I might have access to that. I might actually watch that now that we're done with the book. And perhaps what is it we're doing next? It's the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes short stories, isn't it? Of which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe A Scandal in Bohemia is the first one.
I believe so. Let me just get up the publishing order. Scandal in Bohemia, The Red-Headed League, A Case of Identity. Oh wow, he published, let's see, 5 short stories in a 6-month period, July to December of that year.
What's all that cocaine?
Mm.
I don't know that. I don't know whether Sir Arthur Conan Doyle used any substances to aid in his writing.
Yes, or at all. But this is the period of the Great Binge. It is safe to assume he would have been around it, even if he didn't indulge himself.
Yeah.
A Scandal in Bohemia, the introduction of Irene Adler.
The only story Irene Adler actually appears in, I'm told.
Yes, that does seem to be the way. And the King of Bohemia engages Holmes to recover an indiscreet photograph.
Yes. I think we'll decide amongst us in the week whether we want to just cover A Scandal in Bohemia next week, or all 3 of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I'm gonna proceed under the assumption that we're just doing A Scandal in Bohemia next week. But if you think that's too short and we can do more, we'll do that.
Yeah, we shall see as it goes.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to us ramble our way through The Sign of the Four and our thoughts on it. If you enjoyed this, we will be back on Sunday on the Ollie Johnson Plays YouTube channel and this Twitch channel to continue going through the Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor game for Assassin Sunday.
Yes.
Yes.
Despite what some say, we do technically assassinated it.
Yeah, now it's very Assassin's Creed in the gameplay, just in the feel of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Which,
Though,
like,
yes,
if I'd
it was
remembered just how much, I probably would have had us do it after Ghost of Tsushima and before Hitman, honestly.
yeah. But this way, we accidentally created a very bizarre Shadow trilogy, depending on how cheap Assassin's Creed Shadow gets by the end of it. Because that's out in 2 weeks tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm also not buying that, other than...
Yeah.
I'm buying that used, if it's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the plan.
Yeah.
That's my plan too. Is whichever one of us can find it at a decent cost used is the one buying it, I think.
Yeah. At any rate, that's what we do Sundays at 8 p.m, or that's the starting time we aim for.
Yeah.
If you miss us before next Wednesday and after that, we are on the... We are players on Eclectic Hawk... Sorry, let me start again. If you miss us before that time, we are players on Eclectic Hawk's D&D campaign, Goblins vs. Strahd. Curse of Strahd with an all-goblin party. It's as chaotic as it sounds, and we're coming up to the climax.
Yeah. Yes. And yes, we've got 2 Castlevania bosses standing in front of us where we left it.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
what drops a load of corpses on the town you're mayor of.
Yeah, I don't know if I've built a character as good as I should have. Although I did all right in that last combat. I did all right.
Yeah, it's going absolutely crazy with about 5 attacks.
I can only do that once though.
Yeah. No, the way you went as good as I should have. You sounded like Bilbo trying to give a speech about how he feels about the hobbits.
I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. If we can get into the swing of reading like week to week, I really would love to go through Lord of the Rings at some point, but I recognise that is a big ask.
I would say we would divide it into chapters rather. So we do like 5 chapters.
There are different books of the Fellowship of the Ring. Like the first one technically ends when they get to Rivendell. We could divide it that way.
Yeah, we will discuss that when we get to it. We have Sherlock Holmes to keep us busy for that.
Yeah.
Now, I will admit, I only remember 1 case of ejaculation in this one.
Yes, and it was near the beginning.
The one I'm remembering is when he got engaged. It was wonderful. I ejaculated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I don't remember the one near the beginning. So you
What
remember
was
that?
there one near the beginning? I might be misremembering. We'll have to go back and look through. There were 3 instances in A Study in Scarlet, I believe. At least 1, maybe 2 in here. Well, I'm gonna have to make a counter, aren't I?
Yes. Which is also going to rely on us remembering it.
Yeah. Well, I remembered the crackling fire sound effects, though I think I might have had it on a bit too loud for some of this stream. Anyway, yeah. Join us for Assassin Sunday and Goblins vs. Strahd. I'll be going through Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories on Saturday. Or trying to. Yeah, that's what we've been doing. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, and let's chip away at that TBR, shall we?
Yeah.